ऐसे ऐसे हाँ हाँ अब ठीक है.
So, good afternoon. Welcome back to the first day of three-day Global Education and Skill Conclave organized by APAC Network. Since morning, we had various sessions, the inaugural session followed by industry presentations, and now we have come to the first session of higher education track, if we say so, of this three-day celebration of education, which is called APEC Global Education Skill Conclave. And this session is all about designing the hybrid learning model through a digital campus. And for that, we have eminent speakers, thought leaders from the higher education ecosystem here with us, along with industry leaders. Let me take this opportunity to welcome Mr. Aditya Gupta, co-promoter Apigestia and Savan Group and pro-chancellor Apigestia University. Thank you so much, Mr. Aditya, for joining us today. We are joined by leader Dr. Madhu Chitkara, Pro-Chancellor, Chitkara University. Welcome, Dr. Madhu. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're joined by another leader, Dr. Rupa Vasudevan, Chancellor, Best Innovation University. Welcome, Dr. Rupa. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're also joined by another leader, Kuwar Shekhar Vijendra, Chancellor, Shobhit University. We welcome Kuwarji. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're joined by yet another leader, Aman Mittal, Vice President, Lovely Professional University. Thank you so much, Mr. Mittal, for joining us today. And we're joined by industry leader, Satya, Regional Sales Manager, Education and Healthcare, Dell Technologies. We welcome Satya. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
With this, we start the session on designing the hybrid learning model through a digital campus. And my first question to Mr. Aditya will be, going forward as India embraces a hybrid learning model, what are going to be the key challenges when you talk about democratizing education among all socio-economic sections of society? I'll come to this question to all of you. Let's start with Mr. Aditya. Your thoughts on that?
So, Jit, thank you so much for organizing this wonderful conference. And it is always a pleasure and an honor to be on the same dais as such amazing uh, people as my fellow panelists. I think this is a huge topic all of us have been really thinking through in the past 2 years. We have said that very clearly, from the very start of the pandemic, we were very fortunate as our education group, as well as everybody else on this panel, to have been able to go fully online within a couple of days of the lockdown happened. All of us struggled. It was hard, but I think we had the resources, the investments, the technology to do so. I don't think that was the case for the majority of the country. Still today, we see at both the higher education levels and at the school levels, students across the country who have not even had a day of online or virtual learning. So on one hand, I think a lot of the private players like us have really set the standard and the bar, and we've learned a lot in the last year and a half on how can we really deliver excellent education. We have all gone from just taking classes online to actually revisiting our curriculums, revamping them, and even then translating a lot of those learnings that we've had from an offline to an online, from an online to an offline, and to a further blended model. But during this entire pandemic, I think, and as you rightly mentioned, one of our critical concerns was the democratization of it. 25-30% of our stakeholders went back to all across the country and across the world, and they struggled to even often get the very bare minimum of access. And I'll divide it into 3-4 major challenges that we face. First, certainly, internet and bandwidth and broadband access is still a concern. It's so much better than it was maybe 5 years ago. I don't even know how we would have managed 5 to 10 years ago if we didn't have this sort of minimum bandwidth available all across the country and the world. But there is still a lot of challenges as we go beyond the major urban areas. Second, certainly access to laptops, devices, and in particularly in higher education. What we saw in school education, still a phone or a tablet is enough, but in higher education you do need a more robust device. And although for our students we were able to arrange that, for the vast majority of the students, they were often using their parents' laptop or their work computer, and particularly households which had 2 or more even college going students who came back home. This was a huge struggle. The third was access to spaces. I think, when we look at the role of a university or of a college is to not only provide a structured learning environment, but to provide an enabling safe space for that learning to happen. When a lot of college students across the country have to do it from home, from an hybrid model, they get a little bit stuck because most people don't have an extra 2 rooms or 3 rooms in their house so that everybody can do learning from home or work from home. And this is a challenge that I think the government can certainly as well take up by creating a lot more community spaces, libraries where individual learners could access a hybrid model, even if they can't access it from home. I think the last one thing that we all saw that, although technology has come a long way, there is still so much to be done in the next 5 to 10 years. We were all very lucky to have cloud computing come in. We've been 100% in the cloud since 2008, 2010, and that really helped us. But there's so many things that have to still be solved, both on-campus and in off-campus facilities. I think if we all jointly get together and really see what can work and what can't work, and particularly look at some of these critical challenges, and some of them could be fixed quite easily. It does require a little bit of investment and time commitment. But for me, the big thing has been two very nice changes, which makes me super optimistic. One, we have an amazing enabling framework, which is the NEP. And I think that's really changing how people are thinking about higher education, how they're thinking about hybrid, how they're thinking about online, how they're thinking about digital. And it enables innovative universities, both in the public and private sphere, to truly go to the next level and be recognized for the great work they have done rather than be penalized. And the second big thing that is super heartening for me is that, we ran for a year a massive experiment where we asked all stakeholders, whether it was a student, the parent, the faculty, the teacher, and most importantly, the regulator, to imagine what a hybrid and a fully virtual education looks like. And I think a lot of people are now more comfortable with it. They're seeing its limitations and they're seeing its possibilities. We've accomplished what I think would have taken us maybe 5 to 10 years to explain to all of these individuals. We've managed to do it in about 6 months to a year. And that itself, that attitude change, is what, in my opinion, will really drive things going forward and truly, slowly percolate the ability for us to say that hybrid online learning is not just for a select elite, middle and upper middle class and beyond, but can truly be brought down to every grassroots level person. Thank you.
Insightful, Mr. Aditya, as usual. You talked about the challenges of connectivity, access to devices, access to space, but at the same time, you said that for you, the defining factor has been the enabling framework called National Education Policy, and also the attitudinal change, which you can see in people, which is helping the higher education ecosystem to grow. I'll come back to Mr. Aditya. Let's have a perspective from Dr. Madhu Chitkara, Pro-Chancellor, Chitkara University. Dr. Madhu, your thoughts on this? What has been the key challenges when you talk about hybrid learning model, and what can be the light at the end of the tunnel?
I think, first of all, making me a part of it, thanks for it. And such a good fellow speakers, and we learned a lot from each other. But Aditya, you well said, and I think everything you have covered in it. And for my next speakers, I think nothing will be left. But just to going ahead about it, for the last 18 months, as well said by Aditya, that it was a very great challenge for all the universities immediately going for a digital campus. And I think post-COVID scenarios are also said that we are opening up with the campuses. Some are coming, some are not coming. So 50% offline, online. So I think this is a great challenge, and there is a government SOPs also that we have to follow that, and leading to a very hybrid model of learning, wherein certain set of students, they are still okay with the online mode. So I think this model gives us great challenges for especially for us. So the 2 points which I wanted to mention here was, the first was already covered by Aditya, that how the campuses will be done and what changes, and there will be the haves and have-nots. That difference is always there. The have-nots are not having the proper bandwidth. They have a problem with the technology. So there is because of the geographical diverse, and it is not only in our country, but it is happening in other countries also. But the second challenge which I am foreseeing, and I think I will add to the Aditya's point, that there is now UGC requirements are also there, that we have to have the different FDPs. So that faculty development programs which were happening already, being changed, we have to do the FDPs with the professors. Is okay. So we have to do the FDPs with the teachers and with the professors to those who are not very comfortable still in these digital technologies. So I think now the time has come where we all have to come up for the help to the teachers, and those type of FDPs is to be done where they can be trained in these new technologies, those who are not very good at it. So I think this will be a challenge which I can add it to the Aditya's point. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chitkara. So you're saying that, adding to what Mr. Aditya said, that
Yes.
training of new technologies to the workforce will be a challenge. And I'm sure that ways will be found to address those challenges, overcome those challenges. Uh, let's have perspective from Dr. Rupa Vasudevan. Dr. Rupa, your thoughts. Do you agree with what Mr. Aditya and Dr. Chitkara has said, or do you have a different opinion on this?
Thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity. It's been always great to come back to APAC and speak on hybrid learning, digital technologies, and education in general. Thank you so much for having me in the panel today. Well, I would like to start by saying that let's understand the scale of our country. Now, when here in this country we are talking about 56,000 colleges, I think by now it would be about 70,000 colleges, 265 million children in school, more than 335 million children in the colleges, and about 8 million students graduating every year. Now, look at this scale. The sheer fact that no system in the entire world would be handling so much is a proof that we will face more challenges than maybe any other country in this world. Now, because of the sheer scale and the complexity of the whole thing. But we can all see that higher education is completely reforming, and higher education is undergoing significant transformation as it continues its mission amidst significant demographic shifts,
Chairman,
preference
support
swings,
that, sir.
workforce changes, and let's
Yes, sir.
not forget this pandemic which drove us into all of this. For private universities and for private setups, this was not new. Complete digitalization at Best IU happened the day we started the university. Everything was automated, and I do not think that there was whether it was ERP or whether it was automation of administration, admission, education, everything was automated. We used LMS to talk to our students other than the online offline classes that used to happen. But yes, majority of the country did face an issue. When corona happened, the transition happened very quickly, and I could give example of my own university, which is in Anantapur district of Andhra Pradesh, where our flagship programs revolve around agriculture. We had two major challenges. One was it is an absolutely labor intensive kind of a program, and a second was the students were from rural areas and internet connectivity was an issue. But as time passed by, there very quickly, I think, our country and the government of India, the state governments, they all came together and they created infrastructure to deliver e-education. Now, increasing number of smartphones itself and backed by affordable data packs, which we did for our students, as well as for the villages around our universities area where students had no access, whether they were from our university or other schools and colleges. I think these further accelerated the access to education during the corona time. But having said that, just as our speakers just mentioned, that it is going to be like this, and high flex or the hybrid flexible teaching model is here to stay. The public, as far as I have seen, the public, the private, all of these are sectors are working aggressively to improve the reach. And I read about the PM E-Vidya program very recently, which was introduced in June 2020. which makes e-learning more accessible to Indian students and teachers. It aims at all activities related to online and digital education, which is expected to benefit about 25 crore school students. So I think government of India and the state governments are focusing a lot now on digitalization, much more than we ever did. And a lot of funding is also being placed for digital infrastructure, for development of apps, and which also function very well under low bandwidth. So I think this is where digital content, and then I've also heard about digital contents, digital channels, which are focusing on education. So I do not think now, henceforth, whether we have a second or a third wave or a fourth wave, we might face the kind of trouble we faced in the first 6 months, because we've evolved over time. There are free digital tools available. Now it is more about not using digital technologies for teaching learning, but rather approaching the digital tools from a critical pedagogical perspective. So we've moved from whether we really have the digital infrastructure to do it. There are several opportunities now, several platforms that have been created, to transitioning into digital tools with a pedagogical perspective, because that is what makes learners engagement more fruitful. So that's about it, and these are my views. Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much, Dr. Rupa Vasudevan. I'll come back to you. But if I take a crux of what you said, hybrid, flexible teaching model is here to stay. It is the future. And what you said, it reminds me of a speaker who was in the inaugural speaker, Dr. Mohit Gambhir, was part of the inaugural session. He also said that it's not about whether we're using technology innovation or not. It's about whether we can go to the next level, taking India's education innovation story to the next level, to be the best in the global arena. We should now think about that we should leapfrog. And situations like this actually helped India to uh, to go to that level, and we can aspire to go many more heights to touch. Thank you so much, Dr. Rupa Vasan. Come to you. Let's have a perspective from Kumar Shekhar Vijendra, Chancellor, Shobit University. Kumarji, what are your thoughts? Do you have a similar thought or a different opinion?
Thank you very much, Sovik and APEC, for inviting me. And Aditya, Dr. Chitkara, Dr. Rupa has spoken much and covered more or less everything. You know, as you said, that in the inaugural session, somebody mentioned that we have mistake. And what is that? Actually, we have to understand the topic itself says designing the hybrid learning model through a digital campus. Actually, what we are talking in general, we are talking about a blended learning model, which we all were either forced to do it, or when the fusion of technology started, we started doing it. We have to understand that hybrid is not a blended model. Hybrid, if it is hybrid, it is something new coming out of fusion of two things. Then it is hybrid. It means we have to look that why we need hybrid learning models, one, and how it is going to be successful in a country like India, where not only demographically but socio-economically we have different perspectives, different challenges. So hybrid campus in general or hybrid pedagogy we have to talk about. Dr. Rupa mentioned about it also. So this is very important what we have to understand, because what happened in last 1.5 year that we all were working on blended models using some LMS, using all these technologies, and we got confused. I personally feel that support of taking support of digital devices and all those things, having some flipped classroom or blended learning, maybe we are on the verge of having a hybrid learning models in this country. Actually, if we have to look into the what is hybrid models, then a lot work has to be done, and a complete new ecosystem has to be developed in the country. If I look at the requirement of hybrid learning models in this country, yes, we have, because democratization of education can only happen when access of education will be with everybody, and the best can be provided to anybody and everybody. Dr. Madhu Chitkara was talking about FDPs. Generally, what is happening if we have a hybrid learning model and digital campuses, it means our FDPs will not only be dependent on the available resource, what is available to me. They will be a global phenomena. Anybody doing like if APJ is doing, Chitkara is doing, Shobit is doing, Best University, or anybody is doing globally, Harvard is doing, they will be more accessible and available to everybody. This challenge has to be addressed. I always believe that when we will talk about hybrid teaching and learning models, then institutions, space, teachers, scholars, students, citizen, employees, tools, context, everybody has to come in a very close dialogue. The government, and they have to be a part of this ecosystem of learning, this ecosystem of education together. It cannot be in isolation. What is happening when we were in blended modes? Those who could afford, they established it. Those who could afford, they enjoyed it. That's all. And that's why, Sovik, you will appreciate that what we were talking maybe 6 or 8 months back, a new normal has come. Suddenly, when a real normal started, we all switched over to the back to the old practices, maximum of the people around, because neither teachers were very comfortable nor students were. The moment government said, okay, you can have students on your campus, suddenly again the chalk and board started, and all those smart boards were minimum used. And this is a fact of the country. So we have to understand and define that what actually in hybrid learning models we want in this country, and we have to understand the best practices happening. Just having some digital devices on our campuses, just having some broadband connections or lease lines, and just delivering the same information what we were delivering in the classroom online will not serve the purpose, and this is the challenge which need to be addressed. So I stop here. Maybe I will get an opportunity to speak further. Yeah, over to you, Sudhir.
Listening to Kumar Shekhar Vijender, uh, uh, what you said that first we have to understand why we need a hybrid model, and then how to make that hybrid model a success, and what is the best practice of hybrid model, and are our universities, colleges, schools are following that. So we all need to sit together and we have to make that roadmap where you make the hybrid model of education a success. I'll come back to you, Kumar Shekhar Vijender. Let's have a perspective from on the leader, Aman Mittal, Vice President, Lovely Professional University. Mr. Aman, your thoughts on that?
Hi, Sobek. Hi, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here on this platform. I know when you're the last speaker, almost every challenge has been spoken about. But I think it's an interesting debate that's going on. And especially, I was speaking to my daughter yesterday, who's been given an assignment that if you are the education minister of India during the COVID time, what steps you would have taken to ensure the education continues. And when we were debating various things yesterday, and I'm very happy to have this discussion happening today. And especially we stopped finding these solutions because it was uh, India. I mean, India is huge, and Dr. Rupa has talked about the numbers. And one major challenge is the huge divide in the social economic section within the society. And it was one solution or one decision by an education minister was not fitting into bill. We tried, can we have a radio? Can we have TV? Can we have posters? Can we have announcements done at the temples and gurdwaras and mosque or whatever? I mean, in the end, everything was not fitting into the bill of democratization and the social economic division. So I think there are huge challenges, absolutely no doubt on that. I don't want to spend time on repeating those challenges which has already been shared. But I see that future, rightly said with Kuvaji, I think we need to understand that why we want to use a hybrid model instead of just talking about that. Okay, we need to have continuing of the use of technology in the education. I mean, that's great. I mean, we as a lovely professional university, I mean, people know in the sector that LPU is the forerunner where a lot of technology is being used previously also and now also, and we should keep continuing using it. But I think with the question in mind that why and for what purpose you want to use it. And I personally feel that when you look at hybrid model, uh, I see two universe. One universe is of the offline actual education happening on the university campuses, and we using technology or MOOCs or various things that we started during the COVID time continue to fulfill probably the 20% of the learning. I mean, I think 80% still would happen through a lot of classroom learning in the classroom with the board and paper and presentation and stuff like that, with a lot of interaction happening. And probably 20% could go to the hybrid mode, though the UGC has mentioned 40%, but probably could, we assume 20% could be a good healthy mix on that thing, where a particular class, probably led by the teacher or independently done by the students, could follow. But I think I'm looking at a second universe, which whose susceptibility would emerge after COVID, which is the online education. I see there's a huge, big universe of online, pure play online education would come up in some specific areas where we don't really need a hands-on learning. I mean, I think if we can teach, I mean, it's impossible to create an engineer who has never gone to a lab, or who is a pharmacist or agriculturalist or a doctor or architect per se. But I think you can still deliver quite a lot to a student who's doing a BBA program or a business program or an arts program or similar programs. So I think there would be a parallel universe of a pure play online digital learning where I see really universities to innovate and think about delivering it to ensure we have a better gross enrollment ratio, because not everybody can afford the offline education, considering the socioeconomic drive division within the country. So I think the online, pure play online, is going to be a very interesting space to watch. And there, I think LPU is, we have got the approval for the 12 courses that we are running at the undergrad and postgrad level in the online LPU online programs. And I think we are very excited to see that panning out interestingly, and using hybrid to a very limited extent. I have not used very, but to a limited extent in the university campus, with a thought and a purpose in mind. So that's what I wanted to put a comment now.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Aman. We'll come back to you. You talked about the parallel universe of online education and classroom teaching going together, especially for those kind of courses where we actually don't need physical interventions, where we could focus on more and more digital and online learning. Uh, and also, you talked about the uh, how to go about the digital hybrid digital learning model. So, thank you. I come back to you. So we heard the leaders from the higher education ecosystem. Let's hear from the leader from the industry. We have Satya, Regional Sales Manager, Education and Healthcare, Dell Technologies. Satya, you heard the higher education leaders giving their opinion on the pros and cons of designing the hybrid learning model. But what are the key requirements in building a robust technology infrastructure that can support a digital campus? And especially what kind of role you can see for a company like Dell in building that robust infrastructure? Because end of the day, if you talk about hybrid learning model, digital campus, there has to be robust IT infrastructure. So what are your thoughts on that, Satya? Over to you.
Thank you so much. I was glad to hear some of the views from all the panel members, and thanks for including me to be part of this conversation. Some of the points, yes, the first topic itself was related to democratic and I think socio-economic. So the conversations were related to the countrywide, the good and bad of things. And certainly to start with, which is common across everybody's thought would have gone up. But I think Aditya took the lead in that, in saying that internet is a problem. And I'm sure that is something all of us are looking at as a common problem, is that infrastructure availability among everybody. While our digitalization has grown exponentially over the last decade, and the COVID situation now has been we could manage that only because of the growth we had in the last decade, such that with whatever minimal resources you were having available with the educationalists, they could still set up something and ad hoc. It's hardly like we had a time frame of anywhere between 30 days to 60 days for everybody to recover from that situation and bring back those college. Nobody shut their college or education institutes and they said that we are not going to run it for next 6 months. It's only that students could not come to the campuses. That was the situation. So I think whatever I think we are there, and it's only the now coming to the question of democratic or socio, we can see that it's the tier 1 versus tier 2 and tier 3. That is how we have to look at. And we are seeing that tier 2 cities are gearing up with respect to the kind of education institutions they are coming up. Pune or Coimbatore or Gurgaon, and we see more of these places, even the tier 2 cities of Kerala and other parts of the country. They are all showing enormous growth in their way of approaching with respect to education. The place where we see, like Ma'am Rupa Ma'am said, I think she saw the bright side of things, while there are always there is something that we has to be encountered and corrected and improved, and there is areas of improvement. There is a bright side of things. The bright side is that we have had 3,500 edtech companies in the recent years, and four unicorns among us. That is a justification of the kind of market we are looking at, the kind of education growth. And I think the government is also pitching in with RISE kind of initiatives, where people are able to take funds and support and upgrade their infrastructure. This is from the overview of things, I would say. Now, coming to technology vendors and partners like us, as we are driving our focus, we have a vertical on education and healthcare we are driving, and I am participating in some of such conversations with leaders in the higher education industry. I am in regular touch with them, and I hear their what is that they have to say. So Dell is participating in making the campuses smart. So we are contributing ourselves in making your assessment easier. We are making your LMS more efficient. We are helping in making your security within the system more enabled. Today, we see that universities and colleges are opting for hybrid model learning. Like they are giving chances or choice to the students, that they can either come to the campus, or they can take it offline as well, from their home, at the comfort of their home. That means the education system itself is taking the new avatar of becoming hybrid in model. So in those cases where an infrastructure is a requirement, or a content is a requirement, or upscaling of the technologies is important, we support with respect to developing the infrastructure in the backend, or we support in developing the content. That is, we are also running Dell Education Services, where we are helping universities to improve their student skill sets, so that they can be more relevant to the industry requirements when they are putting themselves up for placements. So we have content also from Dell Education Services. On top of that, I think some of you must have heard Mr. Venkat Sitaram was giving the keynote in the morning, and he spoke about AI for Youth. And AI for Youth is a program that a signature program from our end, where we are collaborating with a market industry leading OEM, and we are setting up AI labs and ensuring that the students are being enabled to be more innovative, more upscaled in their skill sets, and they are more relevant to the industry. AI for Youth is a program that is driven by us. Now, this is one part of it. Other than that, we have collaboration with solution vendors, and as I was saying, we are setting up digital libraries, or learning management systems, or campus solutions, smart campus. When a student walks into a college, the experience he gets today, I think after all this 20 months of experience they have gone through, they want more sophistication. When they walk into your campus, they're going to look for more sophistication with respect to what they have been seeing 20 months back. I'm sure all of us are gearing up to set up more infrastructure, which is going to make their experience better, their education, their curriculum, and their quality of their education better. That's what every education institution is working towards. On that lines, we are working with customers with respect to developing their databases or their backend systems, such that they have a better experience when the students are walking in. The assessments are converting into online assessment. From paper, students are moving into how can I take up the exam over a stylus based laptop, or a digital solution is what we are looking at. Curriculums are becoming more online in nature, so paper is being saved. So I feel that there is a lot of scope of growth is happening. EdTech's contribution to this, we should really give a big hats off to them, because they have made life easy for students to enable themselves with more, as I said, industry relevant education, and also upscale themselves in the absence the technology is making students go face to face with their teachers, though they are away. And that is something the technology has given us a blessing. The teachers and the students are having the connect still. We still see that they are able to, with all the minor glitches, and we do know students how they behave, whether they are sitting in front of you or away from you. They do have a behavior which over the time, with the technology becoming adaptive, they will all adapt to the systems. But whatever the technology has given us in the last one for a decade, and the 20 months of experience is only positive, where we see that more growth, and edtechs are growing. The education solutions are coming up, where the edtechs are trying to make your life more easier, and with them we are trying to make it more I would say modern and digitalized, with the help of the infrastructure and the other content and assessment offerings that we have from our end as well.
Right, right, right. Thank you, Satya. I'll come back to you. Uh, Indeed, insightful. You talked about the education system taking a new avatar of hybrid model. You talked about how Dell can make a difference with their content, infrastructure, IT infrastructure, and also, as you rightly mentioned, about the AI for youth, which I heard in the morning also. So I'll come back to you. So thanks for your input. Now I won't give any chance to Aman to complain that he being last. I'll start with him. Aman, what are going to be the key components in tomorrow's model of digital campus? Your thoughts on that?
See, the key component would not be, I would say, different from what we have been experimenting, is the word, for the last 1.5 year. And I think over the last, as everybody would understand, in the last 6 months, first 3 to 6 months, I think everybody experimented a lot. And now, over the last 1 year, we have come to some kind of a stable model where the education could be given through technology. So I think all this recorded synchronous model that we have experimented over the last 1.5 year are going to be the actual delivery model. But as I said previously, um, I see two parallel universe. One universe which is completely online has to work on probably the way we did for 1.5 year, and probably the other universe, which is the campus based education. There, the we would be using the technology, I personally feel, where which is again be a university faculty led, and giving few autonomous credits to the students to do their own on some MOOCs platform. I would give a suggestion, like for an MBA student, I would say that in MBA program, there are a lot of students who come from a non financial accounting background. So we could always say that those students who join the MBA program could be given a particular MOOC course which they have to complete before they join the program. And of course, there are new courses that are coming up in artificial intelligence, or a new technology that we might come across in future, and there's not a ready available faculty there. So probably those industry driven courses, which Satya has also mentioned, could be delivered in a hybrid model. So I see in the offline space those models being used with a purpose. Again, I'm using the word again, we need to have a purpose in mind while using those model. And if we have, like for me, MBA was a challenge. I think there's a purpose that, can I use MOOCs? Why not? Madhu ma'am mentioned about the FTP. Can we use those learning for our faculty development program? Yes. So I think if we use the purpose, we can use the solution which we have been experimenting there. And the other space, we would be teaching the way we taught for 1.5 years, probably with all the knowledge that we have gained over the last 1.5 years.
Right. Dr. Madhu Chitkara, your take on this. What are going to be the key components for tomorrow's model of a digital campus? Your thoughts on that, Dr. Chitkara?
So, what is my view about it is that since we are talking about it and now started the offline mode also. So, when coming to the tomorrow's model, now we have to understand. I think one of my speakers was saying that immediately. I think Mr. Shobit, the university's co-sir was saying that they came back for a offline mode, everybody shifted to that again chalk and duster and chalk and board. But now we have to fix those norms. Reason being that since we have used it very beautifully, and I think that was a successful. You can say successful model for all of us, not only in India but all across the globe. That we used it, that hybrid mode was very effective, and digital content was used. It was very effectively used. So I think we have to come across a model which should be a tomorrow's model to give to the future generation, that how it will look like to be a digital campus. So it will be must drive the positive outcomes by fostering the dynamic engagements. So everybody, all the stakeholders have to be dynamically involved in that. I'm very happy that the program, those who have thought of this program, Satya was part of it. I think in very few cases when academia is there, the industry is called. So luckily today we all, both the verticals are here. The academia is there and the industry is there to help us out. So I think this type of model worked very efficiently. And the second will be you have to enable the development and delivery of new business models and the new different revenues streams. So well said by Aman that for MBA model they were thinking of something else and they used it. So I think this is the time where we have to use the different models and different streams, how they have to be taught, not in the same way we were using earlier. So and coming to the digital campus again, that there should be a digital culture all across, where we can create, we can collect the data, we can derive the insights from the data and the utilization of that insights, because now this is a time for the data analytics. So data analytics people will come to rescue us, that whatever we have done, how we have analyzed, what were the effects of it, how beautifully we have done it, and whether it was a great help to the stakeholders or not, the students were benefited. So I think that is a time where we have to see the different verticals, and the digital campus must provide the contextual information to the constituents based on their behaviors, on their intentions and their locations. So when we were talking about the different locations, the students were they were in a trouble or their different bandwidth or whatever it is. So now this is a time when we are in the campuses, something off campus, something on campus is happening. So now we have to talk about within our think tanks, that how the digital campus in future will be look alike, and how we can guide the students uh, with our insights, that how this education system will be very very successful, where we can give the leverages to the new interactive learning models. And by using this digitally augmented reality, we all were talking about it, and the virtual reality technologies. So if we want to have the digital campus, that at the end, I must say that that must improve our operational efficiency and effectiveness of current educational business models which we were using. And for that we have to have a state of the art technological and operating models, which Satya was telling, that we can take the help of them. And during this pandemic, I think there are so edtech companies which came into existence, and they were helping us out. So I think that is my take on it. Thank you.
Right, right. Digital culture for digital campus, if I may say so, that the way you have
Yes.
said, if I take a crux of that. Aditya, your thoughts on that?
Absolutely, Gino. Now I am in Aman's enviable position, coming in after amazing amount has been covered on this. I'd like to take a step back. For us, what has been very interesting, and I'm just going to try to make a couple of interconnected points. The first, one of the things which I did about 10 years ago was to go back and see and try to understand what is the purpose of a college and university, and fundamentally break it down. Because if you're going to go beyond COVID-19 and look at how we are going to evolve from a digital world, re-understanding the purpose of a college and university is very interesting. And a lot of it, beyond being spaces to get people together, create environments for learning, create credibility in institutions, there is also a sense, of course, that you are imparting knowledge. But what's changed, I think, very much in the last 20, 30 years, and for the better, the focus has gone from the faculty, from the research, from the institutions, very squarely on the individual student. And for me, that is what is the next step, which is something we've been hyper focused on. Our academic system is student focused rather than focus. Our credits are measured by student learning rather than what faculty have delivered. And so what we are finding is that different students learn differently. There are some very, very motivated, hyper determined and focused students who can sit and complete a full MOOC on their own. Right? There are a lot of students who learn differently. They
think some network issue with Aditya, I guess. Uh, I think some connectivity issue with Aditya. So, can we have a perspective from Kumar Shekhar Vijendra? Kumarji, your thoughts on this?
So Vic, very well said by Raman, Dr. Tutkara, and what Aditya was telling.
hello?
Yes,
Oh,
Aditya is back. Okay, yes.
Okay, sorry. So I'll just repeat the last few lines. Essentially, what we see, the ability of digital technologies is to really allow us to access every single student's unique and different learning needs. Those who need a very large amount of engagement, which is a lot more physical, which is using data science at the back end, as well as to those who need very little help and support, who can complete a full MOOC on their own and have enough content, doubt clearing, examination, and the credibility support to allow them to thrive in that environment. What really encourages me about this, if you look at the platform today, there are so many different universities, and each student, each culture, each approach, I hope, is very different. One of the best parts about the NEP is that India has moved away from saying that, look, this is the cookie cutter model and all of you have to copy it and good luck, and if you deviate from the cookie cutter model, you're going to not be allowed anymore. And if I look at the various universities on this platform, what I love about them, each has their own passion, their own culture, their own way of doing things, their own priorities, the way they treat their students, the way they treat what they're focused on. Very similarly, in terms of the way they will embrace online and digital, will be very different. And I think this will provide a wide variety of options for students. Aman, for example, mentioned different courses and then who needs physical access versus which can be more virtual. Dr. Madhu also mentioned, on different technologies that need to support different type of students. And I think this is what really excites me, is that for the first time, students will actually all across India from various universities will not only have options of courses, ways of learning, university culture, but also what is the digital engagement, the level type they are comfortable with, and their need. And the last thing for me, which is incredible about this change, is that for the first time, the regulators are willing to listen to this. Gone are the days, one of the things we've always struggled with is that if one student sits in a class and they want to interact with the content or the class or the learning in very different ways, this is not easy to do, because we were forced to say, no, every student has to give the same type of exam in the same classroom, in the same place, from the same thing. And that drives accreditation, and that what drives credibility. I think for the first time, we have an option to demonstrate to regulators, and what we've seen in the past 18 months, and through a lot of digital options, that look, for the first time, we can take the same content, the same course, the same curriculum, and deliver it to different students depending on their needs and depending on how they are comfortable with the way, whether it's an on-campus, hybrid, digital, blended. There's about 20, 30 different models everybody here has experimented. And ultimately, it comes back to what the student and the stakeholders want and really can absorb.
Right. Thanks, Aditya. Come back to you. Let's have a perspective from Kumar Shekhar Vijendra.
Yeah, so Vic, as very beautifully Aditya just mentioned, personalized learning is one of the things that digital learning can do. Aman added to that about the purpose of the education and the access of education to all through online and all other things. A very beautiful thing Dr. Madhu Chitkara has mentioned about digital culture. Actually, I personally believe that when anything is digital, be it campus or anything else, it brings transparency, accessibility, and more possibilities. So, if we look at, like for me, digital campuses which is connected to the world, I am advocating from last few years about a knowledge grid in this country. On every platform, I speak about that. I wish that what is good with all of us, we have 1,000+ universities in this country, there should be a grid and it should be available to our students, which is only possible through a digital campus, if we have really one. What Satya was mentioning about AI labs and all those things, yes, digital campuses can help through MOOCs, through all other initiatives to add value to our traditional learning also. Because generally what is happening that what we are teaching what is available to us through those resources, and digital campus can really make the world available to the stakeholders, especially to the students. But again, the challenge is there. But that challenge we all know, but it can be addressed if a knowledge grid is there, especially the institutions, those who are in rural areas. One of our universities in Western UP in a small town, second one is in Meerut. So we know, we have seen both the worlds. We understand that what is the challenge. So these things through a digital campus can come, and edutech companies, technology companies, generally I wish them to think about that also, that how they can help in creating a knowledge grid in this country in spite of having isolated digital campuses in every campus. So this is very important what has to be there, and definitely it is going to help the country at large. And lastly, there are many reports which say that in coming 20 years, these big campuses, what we have globally, they may disappear, and we may end up with actually digital campuses having small physical campuses. So this is the future. We do not know, but it may happen soon. Yeah. Thank you.
We do not know, but surely that may happen in future. Quintessential Kumar Shekhar vision there. Thank you so much. I'll come back to let's have perspective from Dr. Rupa. Dr. Rupa, your thoughts on the tomorrow's model of a digital campus, and then I'll come to Satya.
I'll make it very quick because I think most of it has been covered, and all I'm going to serve is now khichdi. So I will continue with the digital culture part of it. The biggest impediment to digital or technological change has never been the technology itself. It has rather been the people who have been affected by the change. Now, whether you call it students or parents or generally how we've evolved in this country, the old ways of learning, or the challenge is to get them to digital ways. Now, when we say a digital culture, again I'll come back to the pedagogue. Pedagogy is a scholarship onto itself, and it's a study of learning. It's spontaneous, it's instantaneous, it has its own timelines, mindfulness, and there is a huge scope for improvisation. It is so momentary that it's a and in that very moment a vital exchange of learning happens between students and the trainers. Now, uh, it is a very practical, limited practical use if your skill sets, if what you offer digitally is not contributing to something, making engagement enjoyable, making it all enjoyable for the students, and engaging them in ways that they want to contribute back to the society. So I think innovations here, we have a huge platform. It's magnanimous, considering the opportunity, the need, and now we are all experimenting on different ways for alternatives to lecture, the general 15-minute lecture. Now we've also crunched it to smaller timings. We are including project based and experiential learning more than the traditional classrooms. We are looking at inquiry based learning, we're looking at competency based learning. Not that we were not doing this earlier, but the transition for those, Mittalji spoke about two universe. I completely endorse his view. There is a huge paradigm shift that is needed for equivalency. students who pass out from online, student who pass out from hybrid or from offline classes should be treated equally, whether or not corona. And that transition happened very quickly because of the pandemic. Well, I think the combination of low cost, high convenience, and accessibility is transforming the way we cater to our own students. And I think the two key aspects in this will remain flexibility and agility from the side of the teachers and from the side of the learners. Um, uh, so this, I think, it's about the paradigm shift and the mindset that I would like to speak about. We've done a lot in 1.5 years, but still a lot needs to be done to achieve the pedagogical perspective as well as at the receiver's end. People to receive that kind of the equivalence between what is there traditionally and what is coming now as something new and which we are experimenting.
Right, Dr. Rupa Vasudevan, and thanks for your input. Satya, your thoughts on that? Where do you see a role of a company like Dell in tomorrow's world of digital campuses, or as Mr. Aman was saying, two universe?
Thank you. So I think we heard some good perspectives from different panel members. One word that caught me in the entire conversation is Mr. Kunwar's statement of integrated campus. I think from as someone who's been in the IT field and regularly in the IT conversations, technology conversations, integrated triggers a lot of thoughts for me. And so on those lines, I would say, what is that we're looking at digital? Like when we say digital, the perspectives are different from different point of view of what is that I can make my student or enable my student towards. What are we looking at is one is whatever I spoke in the last, like content assessment and hybrid learning and all that is one part of it. What is that we actually look forward, like for 2010 if we have been discussing, and 2020 21 when we are discussing, the perspectives have completely changed. We have never assumed whatever we are doing today, but today when we are expected to talk about 2030. So what is that your campus is going to look like in those lines when Mr. Kunwar said integrated campuses? It triggered, yes, certainly over the time what will happen, we are going to bring in a lot of intelligence in the complete education system. Artificial intelligence as we speak today is actually growing, and it is being adapted in every phase of life, whether we like it or not. It is taking part in our lifestyle today. A lot of analytics and insights are being built, which is going to help us in making our education system, our ability to build the students experience better. That is what we see. In those lines, I see that artificial intelligence will build the required insights for you to assess a student, take feedback from them, or you want to give a personalized curriculums. Today I'm sure some of you might be having personalized examinations, like you split an exam paper into four types of question papers, and you make four different people, I mean the same set of batch students, but taking four different question papers. That means you're trying to test the student, and you're also keeping a check on the leakage of answers, or making it more tight, so that you are ensuring that every student is succeeding by their individual knowledge. Now if you take it further on, there is a student who has a certain skill set and wants to pursue certain education career, and another student is not good at the overall or the common curriculum that we are bringing in. Then there is, if you are able to bring an insight, or if you are able to understand what is that a student would be looking for and build a personalized curriculum, or if you are able to build an immersive classroom where the students, as we were talking, like when we AA for youth, actually that comes with a certain lab packaging, where when the student walks in, he gets that sophisticated feeling, wow, I'm getting into a lab where I'm going to get the best of the hands-on experience of working on a certain system and learning the right technologies. So that's the kind of experience we're building. Now Dell's all products are integrated with artificial intelligence components as well. That is, when you are developing a complete data center infrastructure or a solution, we can take it forward from just being a database or a storage solution or just being a server that helps you in executing a particular application. We help you in taking it further ahead from there, in making your learning more. You can build insightful information that can build your students ability to experience more, learn more. You can build solutions which are going to make assessment of of their knowledge, uh, feedback system, as I was saying. And we see that there is more that is developing as a digitalization, and transformation is seen in every customer's place, every university and college. Universities are split into multiple departments and multiple colleges within themselves, when decisions are being taken independently or separately, and systems are being maintained separately. This is creating a lot of silos. Rather, we would suggest the universities can go for a complete integrated model, whereby they take a common database and they maintain, and they are able to utilize the knowledge base of their students. Certainly most of you have students who are walking out and then they become they are actually growing in the market and they are becoming great leaders in the system. You should have a database of alumni who can come back and contribute back to your university or your college. Do we have that intelligence in our system to track those people today? So that intelligence can also be brought in as an offering. That is, it's more about a solution that is going to build the insight in your system, and for which a lot of efficiency has to go in the infrastructure part of it. A more integrated and tightened and a database has to be built. A learning management system has to be built such that your students are more equipped to prepare themselves, as I said, for the upcoming or wherever they're going to head into. So digitalization, we look at it from every point of it, enabling the students, making the life of the faculty better, making your ability to get the best of the talents and the best of the student from the society, so that you can develop them into a better people, and how much you can contribute back to the society as well, because obviously you're all in education, you have a purpose, as rightly said by I think Mr. Aditya mentioned that we have a common purpose, and while rest of it is enabling it, the purpose has to be met, and for that to be met, Dell can ensure that your life is easier, and it you can concentrate in your building your education curriculum, improving it and passing it back to the students, while leave it to us, the technology vendors, the edtechs and other people, to support you in making your contribution more easier and faster. And that's where we participate today and make your life easier.
Making your life easier. That's what Satya was saying, that universities meet purpose, and a company like Dell is there to make your life easier with the technological backup. But thank you so much to all our esteemed speakers. We have come to the end of this panel discussion on designing the hybrid learning model through a digital campus, and I'm sure this discussion, which took place for last 1.5 hours, has been of utmost importance, insightful, and audience who are present here who have seen this session have learned a lot, and have got great insights. I'd like to thank Aditya Virlia, Dr. Madhu Chitkara, Dr. Rupa Vasudevan, Kuvar Shekhar Vijender, Aman Mittal, and Satya for joining us for this session. If I may end this session by telling that first we need to have a purpose. If we have purpose, we can meet those purpose by using technological tools, technological advancement, and obviously we have to have a digital culture to make digital campus a reality, hybrid learning a reality. Thank you so much, all of you. Do join us for the next session, starting at, I guess, 3:30
Thank
on
you, everyone.
tomorrow's
Thank
virtual
you.
learning best practice
Thank you.
education.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thank you
you.
so much.
Thanks everyone.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.